Hello and welcome everyone. This is Humans of Pharma platform by Pharmacist Academy, and here we are with another inspirational pharma journey direct Dil Se. We will be having heart to heart discussion with a pharma leader. To everyone who is hearing me out today, featuring a distinguished pharma leader, Mr. Ashis Mukherjee, currently serving as the global head of market access and pricing for primary acute care at MENARINI Group in Florence, Italy. Ashish sir brings over 2 decades of expertise, and with a proven track record, he has held key positions in renowned organizations such as Biocon Biologics, Merck, and Sanofi, contributing significantly to market access and pricing strategies along with Tender Center of Excellence. Welcoming him and learn all about his insightful experiences, leadership philosophy, and the transformative impact he has made on the pharma landscape. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Shazia, having me here.
Let's get this conversation started. On a casual note, how are you, Ashish, sir, and how is everything there?
All good. Little bit of exciting, landed here sometime last year. So it's more than a year now in Florence. So it's a new country and completely different language, different set of people. So it's pretty interesting. Once again, you start learning. So it makes you a little uncomfortable that you do not know quite a few things. So that gives you a little bit of excitement. At the same time, the opportunity to learn once again. So yeah, it's good. So far, so good.
Good to know that. So here's the first question. Your career journey in the pharma industry is quite extensive. Could you take us back to the beginning and share what initially draw you to this field?
Sure. So, in fact, after when I was finishing my master's in physiology, which is yeah, very few universities offer to do the master's in Presidency College, Calcutta, which is again a very prestigious college, one of the most prestigious colleges, I would say, in India, part of university, Calcutta University, and I had the chance to look at what I can do, which is more applied part of my educational background. And I felt that it was a tough decision on me because one side I was thinking to be continue my journey in research, which I was very much inclined to do. At the same time, I looked at how can I make an impact, which is more, I would say, meaningful, and get into a medical representative's job way back. Almost like you said, 2 decades. It is actually close to 3 decades now. So had an opportunity to work with the Glaxo, and that time it was called Glaxo. There was nothing called Glaxo, so it was a fantastic opportunity to start from there, to interact with the patients, to interact with the physicians, and to share some of the research products which we had, which will impact the lives of the patients. So the primary aim was to use what I learned till like my master's in physiology to understand the disease better, to understand the products better, and to make an impact finally to the lives of the patients. So that was very exciting for me, I would say, to get into this function, the role, and and I continued to grow from there because this was an interesting journey. So yeah, I mean, the idea was to be closer to the medical science with the physicians, with the patients. That drew me towards this profession. And at the end of the day, when you get up in the morning, you made a difference in patients' lives.
That sounds like a truly impactful one. On a personal note, Ashish sir, could you tell us about a book, a mentor, or any experience that has had a profound impact on your career in the industry?
No, I'm an avid reader, so I buy books, and because that made a lot of impact. So there are many books, to be honest. So it's very difficult to find out or to name few, but a couple of them, like I would say, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, uh, and then which was very interesting. At some point of time, I believe that the your journey through the time line, some of the books, it also is important what you read at what period of time. So some of the books maybe you read at the right time, so which makes the right impact during your journey. So when I read Alchemist, and I was getting newer opportunities. And then I looked at various other challenges, and that helped me to stay, in terms of our approach or my approach towards the my journey, my life journey. So Alchemist is one. Then I can also say there's something which I read called Seven Habits of Most Effective People, a very Stephen Covey's book, which also made a very, very profound impact. And some of these habits, I think even today I try to follow. I must say that it's not always easy to, but definitely that also helps me to keep in the right frame of mind. And I keep reading this. I would say that even today, I'm reading a book. I'm coming quite close, in current state of mind. It's called The Mind of the Leader. It's a very interesting book, and it talks about a framework of leadership. It's very called MSC leadership, and which talks about the mindfulness of a leader, selfishness, and the compassion. So this is very interesting, and I started reading recently. I would say the last couple of months, and this also makes a profound impact. So in terms of, I would say that you're learning, whether you have spent 20 years or 30 years, you always believe, and I always believe, there is something still I need to learn. So your learning ability should not stop at any given point of time saying, now I know almost everything. Because coming to the new organization, coming to the new countries, this journey continues in terms of the learning, and the book becomes an important part of your learning or challenging your thought process. Like, I don't know whether you've heard, Shazia, there's another book which is highly quoted, and I quote this book maybe almost 6 7 months back. This is Harari's book, that is called The 21st Lessons of the 21st Century,
Exactly.
Noah Harari, and a very interesting book. So, you get a mix of all your healthcare, you get the leadership, you get to see what are the trends, what are the social issues, in terms of how it will shape your future world. So it's very, very interesting. So yes, the books, coming to your point, there are many books. I also should close, Shazia, because this also made a profound impact, called the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. He's an Indian guy, but he's a surgeon in New York, and he has written many books. And one of the books which actually I read much, much earlier, that is called Checklist Manifesto. And I started using the Checklist Manifesto in whatever I do. Some or other, I believe that if I read something and I do not make use of that, I mean, unless it makes some changes in my behavior, then it's a little bit of waste. I mean, because it helps you to look at something which I perhaps never thought of. I mean, that makes a change in your behavior. So this is another book I wanted to mention that made a huge, huge impact. And in fact, I started writing to him because I was so excited about what he wrote, some of the case studies which he had shared in the initial stages, and which is all about the healthcare. uh, I started communicating with him and say, hey, can you come down? And I was in India at that point of time. I said, can you come here for a lecture? Because I was so impressed, I was so influenced by that particular book.
Speaking of books, have you ever thought of writing one?
I do, because I love telling stories, and I do believe the storytelling is very, very important. And the kind of experience I have in the last, because I moved from countries, I moved from one disease area to another disease area, I moved from different functions, and I traveled all over the world. So you have so much to share, because and it is not always good. It's a mixed bag. Sometimes you face challenges, sometimes you face as disappointment, failures, and at the same time, some of the good things to share. So yes, I mean, I definitely, I mean, my family tells me that you should write a book. There is so much you have, so much to share. So an incident in Thailand, in Bangkok, early morning at 4 o'clock, to like in New Jersey, or to Tokyo, or to even to, for example, any part of the Europe, maybe in Berlin or in Munich. So there is so much to share and so much to learn, I would say. So I'm still waiting to learn more, and definitely maybe at some stage I would like to put it in some way. Maybe, I do
We
not
are
know.
waiting for that. Surely waiting for that. Well, it's interesting to hear it all. Moving along, your driver's roles include time as general manager in marketing, sales director, and business unit head. How did these roles prepare you for your current position as global head of market access?
No, in fact, I was fortunate. Shazia, I would say this way. Thanks to my managers, my leaders, and they kept on changing my role, gave me more challenges, almost, I would say, if not every year, but alternate years or every 3 years, I got an opportunity. And that helped a lot to shape my thought process and my leadership styles. As you move from from a very, I would say, from a medical representative to like business unit director, sales director, or even beyond that to the global position, you become more and more from operational to the strategic thinking role. At the same time, you're also grounded on a couple of other things, like how do you connect with people. Like when you are getting to more people management role, that is the fundamental, that how do you build a team, how do you build the trust, how do you create that kind of an excitement. I'm not so much, I would say, enthused about the word called motivation, but I would say more inspiration, which comes from within. It's not about like you know, if how can you make them inspired to do what they're doing even better and even grow. So I would say that definitely it is important to remember that we have all of these roles have played a significant part of shaping me as I took newer and newer challenges. For example, I moved from Sanofi to MSD. And at that point of time in Sanofi, I was managing a business of a pretty large business with a large field force. Compared to that, when I went to MSD, it was a much smaller team and it was a big challenge. And I would say to some extent, there's a risk. And some of my other colleagues at that point of time said, Ashish, why did you pick up this role? Because it's a much smaller role. Now, I never defined the role by the number of people I manage. This could be just one dimension, but it should be intellectually challenging for you. So, which you have never done perhaps. So, this role was like to set up a new function, a market access function in India in MSD at that point of time. And how do we grow the business, which is more public market business? So this to me it was very interesting. So I picked up that role. I grew in that role. And I was like trained in US, got the orientation about market access. I built the team from nowhere. So there was no team. Even I go to the market to get some market access manager. They say, what? What do they do exactly? What do you mean by market access? So it was very interesting. And I started writing the job description of a market access from where I started to build up the team of market access pricing. I'm talking about when? In the year of 2011. So 2011, 2010, 2011. So that time nobody knew. They know marketing role, product manager's role. This is pretty common. Even the tender manager's role, we knew this. There are some tenders in India. But that time nobody knew about what is market access. What do they do? And I set out to create that function, build the team, and we did some amazing projects. And then I had an opportunity to go to US because thanks to the team, we did some amazing projects in India. And then I said, let me continue to understand this market access role, not in India, but even globally. So I had an opportunity to go to US, and then I could see US healthcare system, maybe the Canada, then all the other European countries, Japan, Korea, and I understood the healthcare systems are very different. India is one part of it, but more you see at a global level in Germany, in France, on Spain. So from the local, from the India, so you start with your headquarter medical representative in a small place in maybe a district in West Bengal. From there, you move to the global, which you see India, and then you see the Asia Pacific, and then you see the entire world. And at the same time, this is one part of your geography. The other part is your kind of people you're meeting. So you're meeting different kinds of people from different countries, their cultural, their social, the way they think is very different. So obviously, all of these roles, Sazia, has played a very, very significant part if I would not have taken the risk to make these changes. Like when I was comfortable in India, when this opportunity to go to US came, and I would have been happier to continue to be in India perhaps. But I said, let me take a chance or take the risk to go to US. So it was very interesting. So yes, it played an important role, and I'm very fortunate, extremely fortunate that way to have these kinds of opportunities for me.
It's fascinating in a way. Really fascinating. Next in line, Ashish sir, I have a question. You have received several awards during your career, including Regional Marketing Excellence Awards and a Global Award for SAT. Can you share some of the key projects or initiatives that led to these recognitions? You have already mentioned many of the things, but still. Uh,
So I will mention something which you mentioned, the SAT award, which was quite some time back. It was in Sanofi. And I will just talk about it. The rest is all marketing awards, performance awards, so which is normal, like you must have heard this. This is something little different. So I remember I started like, it was a part of the hospital business which I was running. And so I used to work with almost all the top corporate hospitals in India. And I realized that our relationship with the pharma companies are very transactional. Like how much discount will you give? So therefore you do the business. And if you cannot do the cannot give you the discount, so therefore you are out. Someone is there. And in India, there are challenges, and it's highly competitive market. So you got to be very, very clear. How can you sustain this kind of a business? So, and then I realized that from the transactional, because the entire discussion was on transactional, so I realized that if how can we change this conversation to more value driven discussion. So they see always a pharmaceutical company as like only the products and the discounts. But I brought in something which is based on another very interesting book by 𝗃𝗺𝗺𝗃, and that also shaped my thinking, called the customer relationship or the customer focus. And it's a very interesting book. It's a small, tiny book. And that talks about how do you build a value creation selling instead of transactional selling business model. And therefore, we built a lot of these value driven solutions for the hospitals. Like, for an example, at that point of time, usually a pharmaceutical company will never meet the CEO of a hospital, or maybe those who are managing the key account, I would say, the key accounts, particularly key account managers. They would meet the procurement guys and the hospital, the thought leaders. But we started meeting a different stakeholders. Like, for an example, how would you say a hospital is successful? Is it only the revenue, or there are other things they would like to do? And how can we help them? For an example, I cannot name which hospital, but one of the topmost hospitals in the country, in India, at that point of time, they wanted to build a center of excellence for the clinical research. And they said, can you help us? You are a multinational company, you have been doing a lot of clinical research, can you help us to build this center? So I said, yes, why not? Because, and then I looked at internally and got some of the speakers internally, and we had a whole day workshop with the staff there in that particular hospital. So, and we spent a lot of time, lot of efforts to build that, the capabilities, or the what are the do's and the don'ts. How do you build, first of all, a clinical center or clinical research from the scratch? And that had led a lot of interesting developments going forward. Or for an example, like in Sanofi, when we had an R&D head coming from Paris, I took him to Apollo Hospital and said that Apollo is planning to build the R&D center. Now, this was unheard of, because the entire focus of a pharmaceutical companies were, how can I sell more products? And I was thinking about how do we build a partnership to make a more stronger value proposition, a value creation between the two organizations, Apollo and maybe Sanofi. So some of these, I would say, for which it was very unique in the region. So that has led into the SAT, because SAT was like more like a partnership with the hospital. So we got a very interesting name thanks to our creative team members there. And that was very fascinating. So I had an opportunity to understand the vision of the CEOs of some of these top hospitals in the country. So it was all about that. The rest is, as you said, is all marketing awards and other similar awards, which is fine, which is, I think, every single organization would be aiming for. But this Saath was very, very close to my heart.
Amazing, amazing. And such that these are the thoughts we freshers and early managers nowadays need to see to grow in our career. Truly. Shifting gears to another question. Innovation and affordability are vital aspects of pharma industry. From your vantage point, what trends or innovation do you foresee on the horizon of pharmaceutical market access and pricing field?
This is like a extremely critical point, because now when I see from the global point of view, and one of them, of course, I would say extremely critical about the innovation. Innovation is also from the point of view getting the newer drugs, because there are many unmet medical needs. For example, like in cancer, we have got like immunotherapies now, but still there are many cancers are still difficult to treat, or even difficult to diagnose early. So the question is, what other innovation we can have to diagnose them early, treat them early, and more focused products, more like I would say targeted products. This is one part of the story, which is like more drugs. The other part, which is important, is the healthcare system. Like, do I have the right healthcare infrastructure in my country, and how do we build this? Now, healthcare infrastructure is different in different countries. And there are challenges, and also there are opportunities when you look at the healthcare infrastructure in various countries. Third point is like the healthcare spending. Now, post COVID, there is a huge amount of pressure on the healthcare spending across the world, because the spending has not gone up significantly over the years. So therefore, there is a huge amount of pressure on the governments of all the countries to look at the expenditure very critically. So how do we? What these are the challenges what we see. The other challenge, which I would say, the innovation where we need, is the diagnostics. Now, if we, as I said, that if I can diagnose the disease much early, like some of these, what they call it, bedside or point of care diagnostics, or maybe, for example, instead of drawing the blood, can we still use some of the sensors to look at, for example, the blood sugar? Nowadays, I think you know this, Shazia. There is a continuous monitoring of blood sugar. You can just wear a wearable device and you use your smartphone and you can see what is your blood sugar level. So some of these innovations will be very important going forward. So what they call it digital transformation, and they're talking about in the healthcare in digital transformation. But in my opinion, this is taking time, but we are moving towards that. So innovation, when you say, it is not the drugs alone, it talks about all of these. And you mentioned about pricing and access. Now you remember, I think, and again, you need to understand, Shazia, if you look at from India or Southeast Asian countries versus Europe versus US versus Japan, they have a very different reimbursement, landscape. So, for an example, if you go to England, it is like everything is reimbursed 100% by the NHS. So there is no copay or paying from the pocket. The private segment, the self-pay or out-of-pocket, is very small segment. So there, that the issue is that about how can I look at the pricing of a product differently. So there are various innovative pricing models they are discussing, like innovative contracting models, like pay for cure or pay for performance, or risk sharing agreements are becoming very popular. And also at the same time, how can I look at access is more like, for example, population health point of view, or looking at population of very niche population, the at-risk population. So the access and pricing is also undergoing a lot of challenges in every single country. India is one part of it where it is very different healthcare system and the reimbursement. Whereas if you go to any other countries, again, it's very different. So you are very right. Innovation in terms of not only the drugs, diagnostics, you're in terms of the consultation, like digital consultation, for example, from your home, like you seen during the COVID days, you could still consult on a video consultation, continuous monitoring of blood sugar, all of that will become a reality. Already it has become a reality. It will even more change in going forward. So there is so much to share, but Sazia, just to give you a little bit of a very high level what is happening across the world.
What you have given here, Ashish sir, is really some important points. So we really need to think about it, and as freshers, I think we need to take more care of that. The next one here is someone like we all know, LinkedIn is the place now to read and to know about any person. Taking note of your LinkedIn, you're definitely a person with strong leadership acumen. Can you share a personal motto or philosophy that has guided your decision making and leadership throughout your career?
No, sure. Before I say that, I'm sure that as I mentioned before, the different doing different functions has helped me to shape my leadership style. But I always believe, because there are many jargons in the leadership. If you read the leadership books, there are many jargons. But what I feel more comfortable with is that is more authentic leadership, like what you are, and so walking the talk, like what you preach, you must practice yourself. Simple, easy to understand. Like, don't say something which you do not follow. So people will see through you and then say, hey, this guy, he talks, but he doesn't follow. So this is fundamental, walking the talk. So in the leadership, I believe that is the most important thing. And be humble, have the humility to accept that you know what you know. It is not everything by definition, but you are learning also. So it's more a learning experience. So leadership style, I would say, more authentic. And my role, I always believe, is to create the right environment for others to continue to grow, to make more leaders. So that's my role. I feel very happy when I see, and I feel really really take pride, the entire team in my entire journey, they are at different stages of very higher leadership levels right now, and I feel so happy that if I go back 10 years or 20 years, they were at a very different level, and they we are still in touch with almost all of them, many of them, I'll say, in the industry in India as well as abroad. So in summary, I would say I want to be authentic the way I am. I don't want to pretend. I don't like to be pretentious. And two is that I want to create the environment for the others also to also take the high responsibility of the leadership role. And third is also, if I have to say, that we build that trust, and which is easy to say but it's difficult to do, and to maintain the trust in the team. So these are the three, I would say, the most important thing. And as I mentioned to you, the book which I'm reading right now, and I can see all of these things are, you can put them into same 3 points. One is the mindfulness of a leader. That means you are aware, you are conscious what you are doing, what you are saying. You are aware, extremely aware. Second part is, which is the selfishness, that how self-centered you are, or you're thinking about your people. I have heard many times the leaders saying that, this guy is what the slides which he is presenting, this is, I only have helped him to develop the slides. And I felt really bad, because that fellow did a good job. Instead of supporting, he's saying, no, no, in front of everybody, in front of that fellow, he's saying, this is, I helped him to prepare. That means he's taking away all the credit, saying, you know what, otherwise he would not have made that presentation if I would not have helped that fellow. To me, it was a little bit of disappointment, a little ridiculous, I would say. And so a leader cannot be insecure. I mean, that is fundamental. So leaders should be extremely comfortable to give the credit wherever it is due, and also to accept mistake, being humble, and that is something which I am. So I know it's a long answer for your question, but I think you got the essence of
Uh,
it.
the mottos to look after, and I'm taking personal note on that part. So thank you for this. Continuing with another one, what is the piece of advice or a lesson learned that you wish you could go back and share with your younger self at the start of your career?
Interesting question. There are so many, I would say. And so one is that, of course, I would say that I would tell myself to be little more, enjoying, because I was quite focused on building my career, and I tried to perhaps blindsided with whole lot of other things, and I was taking something which perhaps I would have enjoyed. So what they say, like, destination is important, but the entire journey is also equally exciting. So be aware of the journey, not only thinking about the destination. So I would say that I should need to be more aware. I need to spend more time maybe with some of these stakeholders which I met. And I still, for example, like where I started my career as a medical representative way back 30 years ago, I am still in touch with many of them in my headquarters. So in these 30 years, I have not lost any contact with some of them who are still there. And they're like my family. So wherever I am, whichever role I am doing, whichever country. So I would say that this is important. Also important is that I would say that I would take even more larger risk if I go back and I say start all over again. And so maybe I would take a more larger risk to see that how can I push myself, my comfort zone, and then do something more different, taking more challenges maybe early on, and helping me to really learn even more quickly, perhaps. Yeah, this is definitely a interesting question, Shazia. And also, I would say, for example, this going outside the country, which happened quite late in my career, I wish it would have happened a little earlier. And if I would have taken that kind of a responsibility and opportunity which came in my way, but I decided to stay back in India, could have given me far more rounded understanding of what would happen in the entire world. So these are a couple of things which perhaps I would say I would do.
And also, being a mentor to ourselves is the last and the one thing we need the most. So, yeah, great. Another one here, the pharma industry has a profound impact on global health. How do you think your work contributes to improving the quality of life of people worldwide? You already have shared many of the examples, but since
No, this is important part of our role, because when I say access and pricing, and also we talk about simultaneously the policy. And so just to give you an example, this is nothing new perhaps. A large number of patients, for example, let me talk, there are many subjects. So let's talk about something which is very important, and we are working right now on it in MENARINI, which is called antimicrobial resistance. Now, antimicrobial resistance is something which is, I'm sure you must be aware of, is that when most of these bugs become resistant to the antibiotics which are available in a country for the use. So then what happens? As a physician, you feel very helpless that it shows that all in the test, the antibiogram shows that the bugs which the patient has got, and he may be the critically ill patient in the ICU, and you see that most of the antibiotics which are available in your country doesn't work. It is not susceptible. This is all resistant. So you feel very helpless. Now, what to do with these patients now? And just to give you an idea of this impact, 2019, the last data which came out, it shows around 5 million deaths worldwide, 5 million deaths because of this AMR. And out of this 5 million, roughly approximately 5 million deaths, close to 1.27 million deaths are directly linked to this AMR, the resistance, as WHO has quoted. Now, this is very scary. And I was reading recently the OECD report, which has come up very recently, some of the facts and figures for 2023. And one of them is this, the AMR threat. That number of newer antibiotics are very, very less and less over the years. You do not see newer antibiotics coming in. And the older antibiotics are not responding or not working for most of the pathogens. So how would you manage? So our work, for example, the market access work or the pricing work is all about ensuring that you still have some of these antibiotics. And because of the stewardship, which is like rational use of antibiotics, would help you to keep some of the antibiotics for those critically ill patients. Otherwise, you lose all your antibiotics. So to me, this is a big fight. And right now we are working with various organizations across the world, right from WHO, Access to Medicine Foundation. Then we are talking about the EFPIA, which is European organization. And we are trying to find out, or the World AMR Coalition, then Action AMR funding. So there are many such organizations in the world. They are now working towards creating the awareness about AMR, because AMR you do not see. You know, the tuberculosis you see the HCV, you see HIV, you hear about breast cancer, but the AMR you do not hear much, perhaps, because it's a silent pandemic and it's becoming a serious threat globally. So this is, I would say, an important area which I wanted to mention, just one of those where I believe we are contributing quite significantly as a professional, as an organization, to address some of these challenges because of AMR.
Amazing insights, Ashis, sir. Seriously. With that, I will be having the last one here. As someone who has been in the leadership role for many years, what advice would you have for emerging professionals, freshers, looking to make their mark in the pharmaceutical world?
I think this is when I look back, and of course, I'm still in touch with many younger professionals. And I must say that couple of things. So one is that always, wherever you are, whichever position you are, try to feel that you are still empty, like that emptiness in your stomach, because that is, I remember that one of the leadership quote from one of these leaders, and he mentioned that unless you feel that emptiness, if you believe you are full, you know everything, and there is a question mark. Always you should ask yourself, what upskilling, what the next training I should get to upskill myself. And it could be very fundamental, like for example, leadership. It could be something to do with typically, if you're looking in the sales and marketing professionals, can we do something on the financial management? Do I know how do I read a financial statement? So something I need to know about the finance. Do I need to know something about maybe supply chain? So it is not you grow only vertically, but you also grow horizontally by looking at various functions, also help you to become more rounded professional. Uh, so you should be hungry to learn, to challenge yourself, and go for some of these academic institutions and be in touch with the professor. So this is one part. So always, feel, this is like important to stay hungry, and what they call it the stay hungry and stay foolish, and then only you get, like, always you have that ability to challenge yourself. The second thing I would say, that ability to take risk, because this is something important, because we are very comfortable, continue to do. And particularly I'm talking about some of the roles which I have seen in my early years. If I would have been continued, I was living in my comfort zone, as I told you in the beginning. So I was very comfortable in India, and when I moved to US, it made me extremely uncomfortable, because you have very different environment, different. Even today, for example, at this age of my career, I could have also continued in India instead of coming to Florence, learning a new language, new food, and staying in a new place. Everything is new. I mean, like, so why would I do it? So I would say, message to the younger professionals would be, you should be a little more adventurous, like say, hey, let me do this. Why not that? And that, to me, it's very important message to them, that ability to take a risk. if you have the opportunity. Of course, there are some constraints you might have from the family, from many other fronts, and you have many other priorities, other commitments. But if you have the opportunity, grab that opportunity and explore the world. That is what I would say. And third piece, which is extremely important, because particularly in the pharmaceuticals, this is a knowledge industry. This is not like any industry where you believe that I am quite up to date, because science is changing very rapidly. So I would say that continue to build on your knowledge base and understanding of various kinds of disease areas, the innovation in the diagnostics, innovation in various kind of drug discoveries, opportunities, various kinds of even mechanism of various diseases, because of our basic research, we are trying to understand how the disease happens in the first place. So three things. One is that about upskilling. Second is about exploring the world. So stay hungry, stay foolish first. Two is that explore the world. And third is that continue to build your knowledge, to continue to lead. Because, and maybe this is Sajia, this is my understanding, my opinion. For example, in many professions, and particularly in the physicians, I would say, they always go for the continuing medical education to continue to practice, right? I mean, I need to update my knowledge to see more patients. In the leadership, once I become a leader, I continue to become a leader. There is nothing called a renewal my leadership. I mean, do I have still the ability to lead? So there is no such certification that, see, I'm still relevant, by the way. So I think this is important to have this renewal of the leadership. It is not by default, once you become a leader, you continue to become a leader. And you need to renew yourself to continue to remain in that position to lead people. So that's important, because now today, at my leadership level, most of my colleagues are Italians, one Dutch, and so you can imagine. I mean, and Ukrainians. So it's very different. You cannot say what I did 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago would help me here. They are a very different set of people with a different mindset, different cultural background. So I would say that so-called your experience helps you, but beyond a particular point, you are still learning every day to continue to continue to behave as a leader or continue to lead a team. Again, a long answer, Shazia, but
No, no,
these
no.
are all
Really
very
needed
common.
one, Ashish sir, and surely a valuable advice. To me, I will say team as well, to my Pharma State Academy team, and everyone who will be hearing you out through this interview. Thank you so much. And as we conclude, I would like to thank you again, Ashish sir, for your presence here.
Also, let the youngsters should find out some mentors, and it is extremely important. And
True.
I was very fortunate to have some, I would say, amazing leaders, which I mentioned in the beginning, and I can name some of them, like Dr. Sandeep Bhattacharya, Dr. Sailesh Iyengar, or later part, it is 𝗛𝗂𝗃𝗠𝗔, who was from US. She was a very senior president. Or, for example, early years in my career, my area manager. So do not underestimate the role the mentors play as you grow in your career. So this is another point which I think it is important to mention to what I said.
Extremely important, sir. True. Thank you so much. And everyone in the pharma industry, including professionals, students, should benefit from simply hearing you if they want a change and more than motivation for their career. So, thank you so much here. And everyone who is watching, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Reach out if you have any suggestion for future episodes by connecting with us on LinkedIn and other social media channels at Humans of Pharma, or by email us at humansofpharma@pharmastate.com. Bye, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.